Hello, can you guys hear me? Hopefully you can hear me. So I'm going to be doing another live video today. I just have my toned paper sketchbook out here. So just be sort of doodling. If anybody has any requests, please leave them in the comments and I will attempt to get to them. As usual, if you have questions or comments, feel free to leave them and I'll try to get to your topic if there's time. I'm probably going to be doing this for about 30 to 45 minutes, so ask away. Uh, and if there's a lull in the conversation, I have like a list of questions over here that I'll be answering. Oh, thanks, Brandon. All right, so what should I draw today? I think I'm going to draw Marcine. I feel like I draw Roxy a lot, so I should probably, you know, try something new every once in a while. Not new, but you know what I mean. So this is already looking better than the last video. I embarrassingly didn't know how to adjust the focus on my webcam, so the last video I made was almost unwatchable. So I apologize for that, but this one appears to be a little bit better. I'm going to try and focus that a little bit. All right. So I hope everybody's doing well. I'm just hanging in there, working on some stuff at home. I've been working on a comic this week with my boyfriend, which we're still in kind of the early stages of, but we hope to release within the next year or two. And I'll have more about that in the future when we have, pages to show. I'm going to watch this video feed real quick. I think I'm having some issues with pixelating. Let me know if you guys are having troubles seeing anything. All right. I'm going to adjust the focus a little bit more. And sorry, I keep bumping the lens. That's better. A little pixelated. See, that's odd. It doesn't look that way on my screen. Let me try bringing it in just a little bit closer. There we go. Might just be my internet connection. Okay, so let's see. We have a question in the comments here. Did you go to school for art or drawing, or are you more self-taught? I did go to art school. I went to Columbus College of Art and Design, which is in the city where I grew up. So it wasn't far from home, and art was something that I knew I was good at. So that's kind of how I made that decision. My parents also went to art school, so it was kind of a continuation of what they had done. Although I didn't know then that I was going to get into comics or what style of art I was going to do. I think it's something you have to figure out for yourself as you go. Um, with art school, like everybody takes the same fundamentals classes in the first year or two, so like doesn't matter if you're going to become a photographer or illustrator. You take drawing. Everybody takes some form of color concept course, painting course. So you get to kind of sample what different aspects of art are like and see, you know, what you like and what you're good at. So yeah, I do have some formal training in drawing. Drawing was sort of my specialty for a while, more so than like painting or 3D or anything that other people were doing at the time. I'm still learning like digital stuff. That is mostly self-taught because when I was in school, there was sort of less of an emphasis on that. I'm gonna reveal how old I am here because I didn't. I went to school from 2007 to 2011, so we were getting into Photoshop, but you didn't really do anything with it until like junior year. Um, and there's sort of limited training in like websites and just digital stuff in general. Is Roxy a self-portrait character? Not really. She doesn't resemble me physically all that much. She's just sort of like a version of me. Um, and as a character, just personality-wise, I would say she is like an aspect of myself, but she's not based so closely on my real life that I can't exaggerate it. Um, and I like it that way. Like, I think it would be harder to share something that was, more directly about me and make it like a weekly thing. Um, one, as a person, I'm not like particularly interesting. To that would feel like a slightly more vulnerable thing to put myself out there, um, and like have people judge me instead of judging just a character that I write. So yeah, she's based on me, but not exactly, and that is on purpose. Bored looking. Yeah, this is a bored looking Marcine. I like Marcine looking either grumpy or just like she has reached the end of her patience with Roxy. I don't know. I draw her a lot in kind of like sort of disgruntled looking facial expressions, although I don't see her as like a grumpy person. She's just she has to sort of be the adult in the room with Roxy a lot, and you can kind of see that in her face. I'm gonna move the lamp here. I feel like it's reflecting in a way that's not helpful. Maybe if I turn it away. There we go. Sorry, I'm still figuring out the video stuff here for you guys. It's kind of easier just screen sharing, but I like to draw by hand sometimes, so bear with me. Hmm. She does still want her $20, it's true. Let's see. Professionally, what is your goal? I don't really know. Like I'm not someone who has like a definite life plan. I kind of never have been. Um, I have been doing art professionally since around 2016, or well, I've been trying to. I do a lot of freelance projects and stuff on the side, and when I'm not doing that, I mostly focus on Roxy and like the one other comic that I'm currently working on. And I would like to keep doing that. Like that's the work that I enjoy most. I would like at some point in the future to have like a graphic novel published. That's probably like the big goal for me. Aside from that, just like I know I'm probably never gonna get rich doing this, but I would like to have just enough to live comfortably and be able to be creative. So we'll see, you know, how things go as time goes on. Um, I mean, obviously, this is something that I would do no matter what. Like if I have to go back to my day job of working at a bookstore, I'll still find time to do drawing and do comics because it's what I love. So I don't know. What is an artistic outlook on life? It's a very open-ended question. Um, I think I don't know. There's a degree of like you want to have a realistic outlook on the world, but you also want to be able to take bad situations and sort of use them as fuel, or you know, find ways to incorporate the world as you see it into your art. Whether you're doing, you know, just silly comics like I do, or if you're doing, you know, something more serious, if you're, you know, a fine artist, or if you're writing a novel. I think just a certain way of viewing the world is as potential for inspiration. I think that's sort of the main ingredient of an artistic outlook. I draw a lot of inspiration from the people around me. Marcine is sort of one of the characters that is based on like an amalgamation of friends I've had in my life. Um, and I try to not make her too like too much of a mom character, even though she sometimes does kind of fill that role for Roxy, just because Roxy needs it so much. And she's supportive. Um, she's sort of level-headed, um, responsible, and you know she kind of lets Roxy be Roxy. Mm. How has your practice changed over time? It's changed a lot, honestly. Just with comics specifically, I didn't really know what I was doing when I got started. Um, I kind of just wanted to start putting something out there that was like a project that I could complete every week, and have like an ongoing thing that I do and work up like a bit of a portfolio, and B, just have something that, you know, gets me some ability to say that I work in comics, even if it's not like a professional thing that I do. So when I started, I didn't really know like if it would get popular or if anyone would read it, but I just kind of wanted to put something out there. I had been working at Half Price Books before that for about 5 years, and I got that job right out of college, so I had kind of gone for a while without really doing anything too creative. Like I would sketch on weekends and stuff, but mostly like retail work is exhausting, and it kind of has a way of zapping your energy for creative pursuits. So I had like a lot of unused potential and desire to express that, and Roxy kind of became my outlet for a while. And I've had to learn over time like ways to make the art process go faster. Because if you're going to be putting something out every week, in addition to doing other projects, it kind of has to not take up too much of your time. Um, like obviously you want it to look good, and you want to take the time to make sure, you know, you're consistent and the colors are right and your punchlines are landing and everything, but but you do need to save some time. So like I've learned how to do things like copy and paste backgrounds or have a reusable color palette that I just refer to every week. Um, so it's been a learning process. I think it's that way for everybody. Like there's a lot you have to kind of teach yourself as you go in comics because even going to art school, like there wasn't really a comics program when I went there. There is now, which is awesome and also makes me kind of jealous. Like people are taking, you know, comics as literature, comics theory kind of classes, and there was less of a formal program when I was there. You could find classes where people would talk about comics, but mostly it was more straightforward art history and stuff like that. I'm gonna add a little highlight to her face there. Sort of unamused looking Marcine. I'm gonna put some lipstick on her. I basically never draw her with makeup on, but she's, I don't know, kind of feel like adding it to this. If anybody has any requests, uh, please let me know in the comments. I can draw stuff that's not Roxy related too. So, up to you guys. This is just sort of a draw and chill doodle session, and I don't mind if it, gets off topic or whatever. Let's see. What jobs have you done other than the one you currently do? I've had a lot of weird jobs. Um, my first job was playing piano at this cafe in my home city called Mozart's. And basically, I would just sit in the corner and play very, very softly on this electric keyboard thing that looked like a baby grand. So, like, no one was really listening to me. I was just kind of there to be background noise. Um, that was a fun job, though, because it was just like, I don't know. It was fairly relaxing, but it was also kind of like giving a performance every weekend when I went in. So I'm a fan of like introvert extrovert stuff. So like I like being on stage as long as the focus isn't really on me. Kind of why webcomics are a good choice for me because I can kind of just do something and put it out there for you guys to see, but still sort of be able to hide behind a character or just, you know, there's a layer of remove. Other jobs I've had, I was a character artist at the Columbus Zoo when I was in college for a while. A bunch of my friends worked either as character artists or face painters. And we all kind of hung out in the same little area around the food court, and it was miserable because like it was the middle of summer when we would be working, so it's like 98 degrees outside, and you have to wear like these horrible Oxford shirts and khakis with belts, and it's just sweltering, and nobody wants to buy a caricature for $25. So you're mostly just out there kind of standing around and doing nothing. I would also occasionally get customers who would like, I would sit down and do the drawing, but then they would decide it didn't look enough like them, so they did not end up keeping it or paying. That was frustrating. But it was still, I mean, it's fun to say I did characters as opposed to like I was a waitress or something. I've also worked at restaurants. I would choose the caricatures over that every time. Um, kudos to anyone who works in the service industry right now, especially. It is hard, hard work. Those are like the only two really interesting jobs I've had. Other than that, I've just had like normal retail stuff. Half Price Books was the job I had for the longest, and it actually was like I I hesitate to say fun, because just like as a company, especially recently, they have not been purportedly the best to work for. But I do miss the people that I worked with when I was there. Um, finish this shading up, and then I'm gonna move on to something else. I think I'm done with this. I'll put in a background. So you were the piano woman. Yes, yeah, I was the piano woman. Although I didn't play the song Piano Man at Mozart's Cafe. I think that probably would have gotten me a talking to from the manager. I mostly just played classical stuff, but then I would sneak in like songs from Zelda because only me and like the other video game nerds or people my age would recognize them. So that was fun to like sit in the middle of a brunch on a Sunday with like, you know, the ladies from around town having their coffee and toast and just play like Zelda's Lullaby or something. um, so that was fun. Okay, I think I'm gonna move on to this other page here. What should I draw this time? Anybody have any ideas? I think I might do just like some doodling. I think every artist has like a default thing that they draw when they don't know what to draw. I tend to just start with a circle and make it either a head or a skull. I think this one I'm going to make it a skull. But if anybody has suggestions, I can switch gears. Running out of questions here. Hold on a sec. What do you dislike about your work? I think there's a lot that I dislike about my work. I think like even if you feel fairly good about yourself as an artist, it's like you get sort of into a mode of seeing the problems with your work and like your weaknesses. Um, I know that I'm not as good on precise inking as I would like to be. Line work is just like a little bit of a struggle for me to get it to look as sharp and clean as other people do, especially working digital because it's not what I'm trained for, not what I'm used to. And I don't see this to be like down on myself. I think this is something that I can improve over time. It's just, you know, when you look at your own work, it's important to kind of be able to recognize areas where you could improve. I think in general, there's like my sense of color could be better. It's taken me a really, really long time to even get to where I am now. Like looking at some early Roxy's is sort of, it makes me cringe now because my sense of color was just so bad back then. Like I would have way too many bright colors going on and not a lot of shading, not a lot of depth. It would just look sort of unsophisticated in a bad way. I say that in a bad way. Like there's art styles that look unsophisticated, but it has like this sort of fun feel to it. Like I would say, um, what's the name? There are other web comics artists that like the drawing style is really simple, um, but it's like so distinctive and it works so well for their style of humor that it can be just like a really great art style in its own right. And I feel like I would like to be there, but I'm not quite there yet. Draw a Roxy Link crossover. Oh yeah, okay. Okay, I can do that. Let me, I'm just gonna have this page be like a doodle page. No, I'm gonna. She deserves a full page. This is not a big sketchbook. Okay, let's see. Oh, something that occurs to me right now is you guys can see my hands in this video, and I should probably have like given myself a manicure or something instead of just letting my nail polish chip and saying, oh well. I might do that next time. Yeah, I start with a circle, like for everything. Should probably not do that. I don't want every single composition I ever draw to just be like a head in the center of a page. Kind of sort of start with the frame of like where her shoulders are. If we're playing an ocarina. Mm, it's like a very rough, kind of sketchy outline of where the arms are gonna go. It's gonna change a lot as I keep drawing. um, so I answered, what do you dislike about your work? It's harder to answer what you like about your work, because I think we're sort of trained to be modest about artistic style, and it always feels weird, like you're tooting your own horn if you compliment yourself on anything. Um, I guess I think I've improved a lot since I started doing this, and I like that I can write really fast now, and generally pretty good at coming up with something that is like not. I don't think anything I do is like comedian level hilarious, but I can come up with something that's workably funny in on a weekly basis, which is harder some weeks than others, especially if it's been like a bad news week, which I mean, realistically, right now every week is a terrible news week, so that's a challenge. I like my facial expressions. I think that's a strength that I have, and it's good for cartooning. Just it's nice if you can express something visually, so you don't have to outright say it with dialogue or in the writing. Um, Especially in comics, it's important that like the visual side and the writing side sort of share equally in the full story. Um, I think some comics have a tendency to like over explain things with dialogue when like you can tell from the art what's going on. This is going to be a link crossover, I swear. I don't have the hat done yet, but I'm working on it. Um, some other good examples of webcomics that I really like, and sort of I don't try to like emulate because I want to have my own writing and art style, but some people that I sort of took inspiration on when I was first getting started. Sarah Anderson is probably the biggest example. She does Sarah's Scribbles, um, which is about social anxiety, and she has a lot of experience with that, like arguably more than me. Like she has dealt with panic attacks and stuff, uh, and she writes about that. She writes about like looking at the world just as it is now and kind of having to deal with the changes. She writes one she wrote recently was about like our generation being people in their 30s and 40s versus people who are in high school now, and how much more put together young people are now, and it is kind of crazy. Like I don't know if it's just that there is access to information on how to do things like makeup and hair, or if it's just, I don't know, communications thing, but like teenagers now seem to be like very sure of their fashion sense, and like awkward phases don't seem to really be a thing that happens as much anymore. Um, and that is kind of a strange thing to look back on and like see pictures of us when we were, trying to figure out how to use manic panic hair dye and failing, and comparing it with modern teenagers who can like basically do a makeup tutorial on YouTube if they want. I gave her the little link sideburn thing. I don't know what you call one of these. It's like a lady sideburn. Mm. Yeah, there's a lot of comics and cartoons that influenced my style. Somebody actually brought up one of them in the comments earlier, Invader Zim, and just Jonan Vasquez. His work in general was. I was a big fan in high school, and I think like there are still elements of that style that made their way into my style. Same with like, oh, what is her name? I'm blanking. Sophie Campbell. Sophie Campbell might be my. If I had to say like who my favorite comics artist of all time was, she would definitely be in my top five. Like she has such an elegant style of ink wash. Like her artwork is both simple and really detailed, and she likes to draw sort of subject matter wise all the same things that I like to draw, I think. Like she has a lot of sort of gothic characters, and I don't know. She's just awesome. Um, One comic series that I read in middle school that I really liked and that influenced me was called Courtney Crumrin. And it's, I believe, written and illustrated by the same person whose name I am going to butcher if I try to pronounce it. I think it is Ted Naife. Uh, I, if I'm getting that wrong and somebody knows better, please let me know. But it was a really cool kind of spooky young adult comic series. The art style is very unique and awesome, and that's another comic that I highly recommend. And it's another comic that got me interested in the making of comics. Mm, let's see. I feel like she should have a shield on her back. I like drawing armor. I like drawing like shields and swords and armor and like anything that's fantasy related. I would basically like fill my notebooks with drawings of like elves and fairies and stuff when I was in high school. I was a big fan of Amy Brown art and Arthur Rackham, so I would kind of do fairy tale themes like that. And I was following a lot of other artists at the time who loved them too, and you could kind of see their style in in that style. I was actually really into a lot of artists in high school who I probably could have reached out to, but I think 16-year-old me sort of thought they were mega celebrities. But looking back now, they were probably just people who were kind of doing what I'm doing now. They had a website, they had a portfolio, and they would do freelance, and they would maybe be known among other artists, but I doubt any of them would have been like they wouldn't have viewed themselves as like too good to talk to a teenager. Hmm. If I have any more questions, I can bring up. Sorry, I'm taking a break for a second. I think I used up all of my saved questions. You guys will have to come up with some new ones for me. I get asked a lot about like what materials I used, but the answer is I kind of just like I don't have a preferred brand for most things. I kind of use whatever the most cost-effective software is, which is Krita, uh, for what I do. And then like for stuff like this, I love my little uh, 6x8 like tinted paper sketchbook. Um, it's just it's an easy thing to like make a finished looking drawing on in a really short period of time. I've been posting a lot of stuff on my secondary Instagram lately, which is I basically just use it for sketches and stuff that's not related to Roxy Comics, and mostly that's been stuff that's sort of in this style. If you could have a friendly dinner with any one character from the Roxy comic, who would you choose? Ooh, that's a really tough question. I feel like because Roxy is sort of the closest character to me, that would be like the worst example of who to choose. I think of all of her friends, the one that I would probably get along with best in real life would be either Marcine or Aaron, her manager from Chapter 2 books. He is sort of the level-headed one, and he's into nerdy stuff like me, so we could talk about D&D campaigns. I think, yeah, of all the characters I've written, he's probably the one that I would get along with the best. Dell is cool, but I more made her to be like kind of a dark, broody foil to the other characters. I haven't been writing as much about the other characters lately, just because I don't know, everything's in lockdown right now, and I feel like my comic kind of is too, which is probably not how I should view it. But if I'm writing slice of life, it feels kind of wrong to pretend that quarantine isn't happening right now. So I've just been focusing a lot on what Roxy and Marcine do around the house, and presumably not really going out to work or to do much socially. But that might change soon. It's not like everything is completely on hold, so there are ways I could work other characters back into the story. How's the biopic search going? Oh, good actually. We've watched a few more movies since the last one. We watched Ali, which is the one with Will Smith as Muhammad Ali, which is a really good one. And we watched Gandhi, which is one I've been trying to get my boyfriend to watch for like 4 years. He liked it. Still looking for ones that are not super depressing. We watched I, Tanya as well, which like has a lot of humorous moments, but is you know pretty sad story, especially at the end. But it's okay because we break it up with like watching coupling and other like comedy sitcoms on Netflix, whatever we can find. Been really enjoying coupling lately. I love BBC. It's been a while since I've got to appreciate like good British humor, and coupling Oh yeah, and we watched War Machine. That one was weird. It was like Brad Pitt plays a real person, but it's essentially it reads like he's playing his character from Inglourious Basterds. So it's like they watched the movie Inglourious Basterds and someone said like, "Oh, I know that guy." Yes. How am I dealing with quarantine? Watching a lot of movies about war. Charlie Wilson's War is another one that we watched recently. We once had a Tom Hanks-a-thon, so this is like arguably a continuation of that. I think the thing that inspired it weirdly was how much my boyfriend and I both loved the David Pumpkins sketch that was on SNL few years ago. Like indirectly got us into like, hey, we haven't seen Forrest Gump in a while, and then that led to us watching like 5 more movies from the 90s and 2000s with Tom Hanks in them. You have just made my day. Aw. I don't know what I said that made your day, but I'm glad, whatever it was. Hmm. Ooh, Last Emperor is a decent biopic. Yeah, I really like that one. Specifically, I really like the costume designs because it's very exaggerated. Like, I think the guy that worked on the costumes for that movie had also done work with like the Pythons of Monty Python, and it kind of shows. Like, you can tell they were being a little bit tongue in cheek with some of the like really exaggerated hairstyles and stuff. It's just a good movie in general too. I don't mean to go off on a rant about unimportant stuff. Um, yeah, Last Emperor is another good one we should watch soon. I don't know how long this marathon is going to keep going, but Amadeus is also on my list. That's one of my favorite movies. It's been a while since I saw it. Hmm. I like historical movies in general. Like costume dramas are sort of my jam. I put a lot of those on in the background just while I'm working because I've seen them a billion times. So I'll watch like it, I think my main rotation is like both of the versions of Sense and Sensibility that came out in like the early 2000s. Jane Eyre. Um, Sometimes I'll put on the show Wolf Hall, although that's a bit of a time commitment, so that's not like main rotation. Marie Antoinette is up there because that's like it's a very it's a movie with a very laid back pace. Like not a lot happens in that movie, so it's good to have as background, and it's like visual candy because of the costumes, but it's not too demanding of the attention, so I can have it on and work on other things. Girl with a Pearl Earring is up there. I wonder if that affects my writing. Like, should I not put on broody period pieces while I'm trying to write like Tina Fey style humor in a comic? I'm not sure. It's a struggle some weeks. Hmm. Sorry about the shadow. I'm gonna try and adjust this camera a little bit. It's really close to me, so I feel like I'm bumping into it every time I lean down to look at the page. So apologies if I'm bumping against the lens or anything. The last video I did, embarrassingly, I didn't realize that I could adjust the focus on this webcam. Uh, I think I ran out of time before going live and sort of just panicked and said, "Oh, whatever, I just have to do it." Um, so I kind of put out a video that is hard to watch for how blurry it is. So apologies for that. Hopefully this one's better. I know some of you are getting like pixelation on it, and I'm not sure what's going on there because I don't have that on my end. Um, but I'll look into it. Maybe it's my internet connection or something. Trying to make these as high quality as possible because I know like it's important when you're doing like a visual thing that picture quality be, you know, pleasant to look at. I'm gonna rotate this a few times just so I can get the background all the way around her. This is like an artist cheat code. If you just do like an unfinished sketch, but sort of shade in the background behind it,